right, welcome back, everyone, to the Two Guys with Questionable Credentials podcast with your host, Adam and Tom. Tom, how are we doing today?
We're doing all right. I really liked that last conversation talking about the next generation movies. I really hold those movies, close to my heart. Like I saw them first, and I just love those characters and was happy to see them anytime more of them show up. But how are you doing? Sorry, how are you doing today, Adam?
Not doing too bad, actually. It's a beautiful day outside, a little warm, but it's August, so what can you expect? Except for our listeners in the southern hemisphere, where it is actually still winter for you.
Yeah, I just hope that it stays warm long enough that maybe I can mow a little bit today, because my God, my lawn is getting unruly. But anyways,
well, speaking of let's get into the weeds, so to speak. We're going to be talking about the original series movie. So that would be Star Trek: The Motion Picture, the whole way up through Undiscovered Country, Star Trek 6. I guess you can maybe make a little bit of an argument that Generations is, it is a crossover movie, so it's kind of like a bonus for the original cast because you have Chekhov, Scotty, and Kirk in it. But we talked about that enough in the last episode. So, Tom, instead of talking about the 4 movies of the Next Generation, we have 6 movies that we're going to talk about. So, in your opinion, of the 6, which one do you consider to be, your best, your favorite, and then which one would you have a little bit of doubt on?
So I've seen all of them, but I haven't seen all of them the same number of times. So there's a couple of them my understanding is a little, or my memory is a little iffy on. So you'll probably remind me of stuff as we go along. I think it's fair that that Wrath of Khan, I think, has to be probably the best.
I don't think that many people would argue with you on that one.
It was cool because I haven't seen it, but having Khan return from a character from the original series, it's cool how they really a movie with back then the special effects weren't as impressive. They were impressive for the time, I'm sure, but the plot and the story and the tension and the whole backstory with the Kobayashi Maru and how Kirk beat it and that great of course the infamous Khan moment, and then Kirk's comment about I don't like to lose, I don't believe in the no-win scenario. Just very Kirk. I will say that if I had to pick a favorite, if it's not Wrath of Khan, believe it or not, is it Star Trek 4, the one with the whales?
Yes, it is.
I honestly, because and you probably know more than I do about this. Isn't there is the first movie or one of the first movies the whole thing that Spock? Don't Vulcans go through some sort of ritual where they officially suppress their emotions or something like that? Because I thought
yes, yes, you are correct. I just can't remember that much about it.
And so with Spock coming back, I believe at least it's how I interpreted it was it was kind of back to square one where he was logic, but also not that he's emotional per se, but he almost kind of has more personality than we've seen him before. At least that's my interpretation. I've never seen the series. I've only seen these movies. And I just a lot of great moments, where Kirk is trying to explain to him whatever year they travel back to, the
Yeah,
use of
1980s.
the use of colorful metaphors.
Oh yes.
The
The hell you don't.
just like the funny, and there's a lot of like funny gags, like when I think it's Bones and Scotty trying to find the guy to get him to make the glass they need
transparent aluminum.
Yeah, and he's talking to the computer mouse because he doesn't know what it is, and
Oh yeah, no, and the thing is, since we're kind of talking about Star Trek 4, Star Trek Wrath of Khan, Search for Spock were very heavy movies.
Yes,
there was a lot of death. With what happened, we saw Spock die, and then he comes back at the end of Star Trek 3. So Leonard Nimoy, he directed Star Trek 3 and Star Trek 4. Star Trek 4 was so much a needed boost to the franchise because it brought back, I think it brought back a lot of the audience that may have been a little bit fatigued with everything, and it was just a good, funny movie. Chekhov's nuclear vessels.
I was just about to say that.
And the fact that they incorporated the CVN 65, the USS Enterprise, the nuclear powered aircraft carrier in it. So you got that tie-in. You got the whales. You got the transparent aluminum with Scotty and McCoy. Everything in the hospital. The doctor that really makes Dr. McCoy shine. Whenever he's like, "What are we in the dark ages?" Whenever they're doing like the kidney dialysis, he's like, "Take 2 of these pills and call me in the morning," kind of deal.
And in all these movies, he's got some of the best like one-liners.
Yes.
I don't remember which movie. I think it's number 5. When they meet God or whatever, and or whatever that being is supposed to be.
Yeah.
And he says, Kirk's like looking for proof. Like, why does God need a starship? And you don't meet the Almighty and ask him for his ID.
Yeah. So all the movies do have, those moments. So Tom, we've kind of talked about, where you're ranking, your top 2. Which one does not really meet it for you?
Honestly, and I don't think I'm alone on this one either.
I know exactly which one you're going to say, and I 100% agree with you.
It's got to be the first one.
Oh my God, that movie was... it was horrible.
Honestly, I don't even really know what it's about. I know it's got to do with it's like some sort of like signal from deep space that they're trying to find, and I understand they were trying to do a lot with just showing what they could do with a bigger budget, but Spock in the space suit going through whatever that kaleidoscope effect was, and
the uniforms, the pajama uniforms,
and the whoever the bald lady is,
she
kind of becomes the computer lady. I found her voice kind of annoying.
I mean, the whole premise of the movie was, at one point in time, we sent out the Voyager spacecraft, and this one is found, and another civilization completely builds this whole thing around it for it to return home and complete its mission, and that's V'ger, the part of Voyager, of course, and it was Gene Roddenberry was still very much involved with everything at that point, with the writing and controlling the franchise. It was a scaled up it was a scaled up original series episode. But I will say that the best part of Star Trek the Motion Picture was the unveiling of the rebuilt USS Enterprise. The modified Constitution, and they do such a good job whenever Kirk has to go up by shuttle because the transporters are not working. And they spend 4 or 5 minutes with him just flying around the Enterprise. We get the iconic Star Trek theme playing for the first time. of him, looking at the Enterprise, and the Enterprise is the star of that entire movie, in my opinion. And that's what... And thankfully, that movie did not completely kill the franchise. I think there was some good parts of it. The cast were kind of awkward in it because they're trying to settle back into their characters after a hiatus. But it shows how much things had, because 10 years, the special effects had gotten better. The budget for the movie had gotten better. It was finally, you gave Star Trek the tools that it needed to be successful. And then, thank goodness that, Wrath of Khan then came out and just completely skyrocketed things to where it needed to be.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say, I completely agree with you. The ones that missed the mark, Star Trek The Motion Picture is definitely bottom of the pile there. Wrath of Khan is the highlight. Star Trek 4, in my opinion, is just kind of it's hard to rank because it's kind of in its own league because it's just so much of a different Star Trek movie. Undiscovered Country, Star Trek 6, is also another very good one because you're wrapping up the Next Generation cast. You're then getting
original series.
Sorry. I apologize for that. The original series, it's kind of where we still have the Lego Enterprise D in front of us, so very much I got Next Generation on the brain with this. So yeah, the original series cast, you're showing how everything between the Federation and the Klingons got resolved, and everything. And another movie I just want to point out is Star Trek 3. Search for Spock. Star Trek 2, 3, and 4 are essentially just a continuation of just one movie.
Yeah.
The Search for Spock was very good. And, the destruction of the Enterprise is probably the highlight of that movie in a sad way. The introduction of the Excelsior. The first time that we had seen another, the next leap in evolution of a starship. We got to see the Excelsior in that. But then also you get to see there's that one moment between Kirk and Bones, and I will always remember this. It's almost just as iconic as the death of Spock in Wrath of Khan. The I have and shall ever be your friend. But whenever at the end of they're standing down on the Genesis planet and they're watching the Enterprise just disintegrate as it's re-entering the atmosphere. And Kirk is like, my God, Bones, what have I done? And Bones looks at him. He's like, what you had to do, what you always do, turn death into a fighting chance to live. Yeah. That one scene, that one bit of dialogue between the two sums up Kirk's character perfectly.
Yes. I was just about to say that before you brought it up. And also, in the last episode we talked about how in First Contact and Insurrection, talking about the crew or the standing behind their captain. Likewise, the whole crew of the main crew of the Enterprise. Basically, I don't know. Technically, I think that's treason, stealing the ship, and
not so much treason, but definitely
definitely frowned upon for an admiral.
Yeah, well, Grand Theft Starship.
Oh, there you go. Make that a game series. But no, I agree. Those three movies are definitely the most connected, and multiple parts to a single movie.
Yes.
When you were talking about number 6 is the one with the Klingons,
yes.
right?
Yep.
Okay.
It gets us to Kittimer. And we have that awesome space battle at the end between the cloaked bird of prey squaring off against the Enterprise A and the Excelsior.
Oh, right.
And the Excelsior under the command of Captain Sulu at that point.
Yeah. The thing I was thinking about, and it was shortly after when we did our episode talking about favorite our bridge crew.
Yeah.
You were talking about Scotty, I was thinking about the scene in Star Trek 6 when and it kind of ties into the Spock comment earlier. The when he's taught, so Kirk and Bones are on the Klingon prison planet, and Starfleet has ordered the Enterprise to come back home, and Spock calls up on holy cow, my words are escaping.
He calls up
on holy cow, what's his name?
Scotty.
Thank you. He calls up on Scotty. He makes some comment about, like, what, how are we coming along on the repairs? What repairs? Mr. Scott, I am talking about the repairs that will keep us to stay here, out of reach of Kirk and Bones, whatever he says. Could take weeks, sir. And I love, because then, is she Vulcan or Romulan? No, she can't be Romulan. That was stupid.
No, she's
the Vulcan.
Yes.
Yeah, kind of questioning the way
Valerian, I think it's Lieutenant Valerian or something.
And questioning his the logic on how he is twisting this scenario.
Oh yeah, and then so he comes back. He's like, he's like, no, that was more Star Trek 2. Whenever Christy Alley's character, whenever she looks at Spock, she's like, "You lied." He's like, "I exaggerated."
Well, I was gonna say, because isn't it that in the first JJ movie as well? Because they the one scene where future Spock helps Kirk get where he needs to go.
Oh yes, and then he's like, "I implied."
And yeah, exactly. He's like, "You lied. I implied." Like sorry, but yeah, that's a whole separate thing we might get into.
That's a whole other thing.
But yeah, I don't know. Number 6. I'm not sure. Number 5 is the one with Spock's brother, right?
Yes.
I'm not super familiar with that one.
That one's kind of different. I mean, that is the William Shatner directed movie,
which I've heard, from start to finish was a mess. The end product was so different than what Shatner had written, because Shatner is actually a really good writer. We talked about those books.
It's really surprising. I don't think the cast and crew really like that movie, or how it turned out. A lot of fans are pretty critical of that movie. It's not a bad movie, because it does have a lot of lighthearted moments, like the beginning whenever Kirk and Spock and McCoy are in Yosemite National Park, and they're kind of having their little camp out and everything. And then the scene where they're all coming back up from the planet of intergalactic peace or whatever it is. Spock's brother is involved in that. And Chekhov and Scotty are on the Enterprise A, and they're trying to figure out how to get back on board. And Kirk's like, initiate emergency landing plan B. And Scotty and Chekhov look at each other. They're like, what is emergency landing plan B? And then Kirk's like, B for barricade. And Scotty gets it immediately. He's like, he can't be serious. He's nuts. And then that's whenever the Sulu floors it, and the shuttlecraft gets right into the shuttle bay at the last second.
Oh yeah.
And then they put the barricade on an aircraft carrier when you have a damaged aircraft landing. They put that net barrier across, and that's what they hit.
Okay.
So that's kind of funny. And I think one of my favorite parts of Star Trek V is whenever Scotty breaks them out of the brig.
I was just about to go ahead.
It's funny because they're Kirk and McCoy are trying to figure out how to get out of the brig, and Spock's just sitting there. He's like, "Yeah, that ain't gonna work." And they try something else, and Spock's like, "Yeah, that ain't gonna work either." And then Kirk gets shocked or something, and Bones looks at Spock, and he's like, "By chance, the person that designed this brig wouldn't have pointy ears?" And it's like something else, and Spock's like, "Well, no, it wasn't like that, but he did have pointy ears." And then Scotty starts, the Morse code on the wall, and they're like, STANDBACK, stand back, and then, and all of a sudden, the wall disintegrates, and Scotty pokes his head. He's like, "Don't you recognize a jailbreak when you see one?"
And speaking of Scotty, one of the first scenes in that movie isn't it him and Uhura on the bridge talking about how basically the piece of crap this Enterprise is, because
nothing is working.
That's I know this like the back of my head. Bang! I actually saw a video. I think I've talked about this channel before. It's called Lore Reloaded, and it's a Star Trek.
You did talk about that.
And this guy gets into deep dives, way deeper than anything you and I will probably ever get into. But something he had said, he had said or theorized that what if that version of the Enterprise was intentionally designed to be awful, like almost as if it was like a punishment for the Enterprise crew, like after everything that happened.
That's a good point.
Stealing the Enterprise, going after saving Spock, destroying the Enterprise. But even though they
Excelsior,
right, and so I don't know. Maybe that's something. Maybe it's nothing. Just thought it was worth mentioning.
I actually like that theory a little bit because at the end of Star Trek 4, whenever they're on the
And we're back again because this tech stuff is annoying, and I'm just going to edit this out and find a good way to combine it. Adam, you were saying.
What was I saying? What was I saying? Oh, I would just you have the rank kind of the rankings of all the movies and everything, but they were all good movies. We saw a lot of good character development of the original cast through all the movies. We saw good moments, funny moments. We saw some really sad, dark moments. Really, the end of Wrath of Khan, the whole way through Search for Spock was just really heavy-hearted and sad for a lot of things. But yeah, it's I think you get to see a lot of the evolution of the movies. Mirrors a lot of the next generation series, where it's kind of wonky in the beginning because you have they're reusing leftover undone episodes from the original series for Next Generation, and then finally it really hits its stride about season 3 and 4, which and at the same time you have the original series movies also kind of taking place at the same time. I think you have Star Trek 5 and 6 are both produced the same time that Next Generation is occurring. So overall, it's they're good. They're good. I think that's what we just can take away from that.
Yeah. Well, I know we're kind of cutting it close for time, but I don't know how much I really have to say. So, do you want to tackle the J.J. Abrams movies quickly, or do you want to have them be their own set episode?
Let's have it be its own set episode. Because there's the 3 movies there. I know we originally talked about when we were planning this episode of just kind of tacking it on at the end, but I think we need to give it its due. I know there's a lot of criticism. A lot of the fans don't like the J.J. Abrams movie, but they are Star Trek canon, so we do have to give them their spot. With everything. So I do think we need to do an episode on that at some time in the future. But just real quick, I'm going to say of those movies, there was a really good one, a good one, and a not so good one. And we'll just kind of leave it at that as a little bit of a teaser.
All right. Well, then I guess if you got nothing else to say, buddy, we'll just go ahead and jump into the close. All right. So, thanks for listening. If you are on YouTube, like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below on your favorite movie or a subject you want to talk about. You can find us on just about every single podcast site except for YouTube and iHeartRadio. And if you're curious, that is Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Podcast Indexed, Overcast, Podcast Addict, Castro, Castbox, Podchaser, Pocket Casts, Listen Notes, Player FM, Good Pods, and True Fans. Not to be confused with the other fans that's out there. Please rate and review. Send us an email at twoguysnocreds@gmail.com. And I guess we'll see you next time. Goodbye. All right, that's the show. Thanks for hanging out with us for another episode of Two Guys Questionable Credentials. If you laughed, learned something, or are now somehow more confused than when you started, then we've done our job.
Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and tell a friend or an enemy. We're not picky. And remember, everything discussed here is just conversation, speculation, and two people confidently wandering through topics they may or may not fully understand. Please take none of this as legal, medical, or emotional advice. We'll see you next time.